Hello everyone, Gerard Scarpese, craft hairdresser, co-founder of the Hairbrain community. Proud to be with my good buddy Julian Perlingiro again.
Hey guys.
Coming from live here in SoCal at the Perlingiro studio.
There we go.
Gold Pig studio. Julian's going to be doing what he does, which is sharing an incredible haircut, teaching you guys, and I'm going to be doing what I do, looking for questions and ways to kind of help this process along with some great information, great education. I'm going to turn it over to Julian. Let's see your questions for Julian. I'll be happy to share them.
Hey guys, great to be here. We're going to go into some long hair today. Change it up a little bit. Last time I did a nice short little pixie, so I'm going to work with a long layer. Now, I think long layering sometimes can get a bad rap. We think, it's not as exciting, but, I think it can be. And, it's something that's really a staple of what we do in the salon every day, but also it goes along with the fundamentals of cutting hair. And I've been working quite a while with the Classic Cutting Foundation. So I'm going to work a very salon-oriented, classic approach to cutting longer layers from front to back. So when I say from front to back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to establish the length through the face, through the front of the hair first to open that area up, which is really nice when we want to push the hair away from the face and get it off the face. It's also, I think, something that's really good when the hair in through the front is a little bit weaker in density, because by starting at this point, I can create a really consistent line, from the outline into the shortest area. Now, the elevation and my finger angle is going to be more what we consider graduation. But I think still, when we think of long hair and we think of something like this, a lot of times we describe it to our clients as a longer layer or layering, which is fine. But if I break down, technically speaking, because I am combing down and I'm keeping the weight low, technically it would be more of a graduation approach to it. So the shape is going to really sit down through the perimeter, keeping the shortest length, in proportion with the outline, keeping everything very close together. You see the sectioning is a vertical diagonal, so following the curvature of the head. And then I've established the guideline to start out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to comb the hair forward and down onto that point. Now I say I'm going to comb it down onto that point. I am elevating just very slightly. So, it's not a stationary guide. What I can find is a lot of times what that'll do is that will create too heavy of a shape, and it can look very, bowlish, especially on your shorter lengths.
So Julian, I'm just going to jump in for a minute, give some shout outs. Our buddy Steve Statlin is watching from Asbury Park.
Awesome.
Nicholas Shatterow, our old friend. Rick Bennett is watching. We've got, hopefully he's watching with some of his students in his Hair Arts Institute in Oklahoma. We've got Jenny Nononeman watching from Germany. Christian Vasquez, lots of love coming in from everyone. Ciao bello, says Francesco Grandi.
Awesome.
Thanks for the love, Diane Westwood. Yeah, some people are freaked out by mannequins, but they're a great way to learn.
Yeah, and I think, just carrying on with that, when you're trying to work pure technique and, I think show something, that's based on the technique, the mannequin's the ultimate way to do like a pure,
Absolutely.
pure haircut.
It's become the staple, and she just says she loves what we're doing, but she gets freaked out by mannequins.
Oh, trust me, man,
Yeah.
I have nightmares sometimes, and I think like all the mannequins I've cut in my life are, gonna one day come alive and chase me around the room, but that's a Hollywood movie coming out.
Got a question coming in from Sally Barker.
Yep.
Sally is wondering if this cut will have blended layers or choppy layers.
Well,
I guess it depends on how you're feeling today.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on my accuracy, doesn't it, Wendy? But the technical side of it, everything's going to be blended really neatly and cleanly. Now, I think choppy can be deceiving because choppy can be achieved with product and style. Now, something like this, I could blow dry smooth and have it look really blended, or, I could work with some texture and create a certain amount of choppiness. But technically speaking, everything's going to be blended very cleanly. All right, so now you see I've worked back vertical diagonal up until I reached beyond the ear area. So I took that section straight down. Now from there, I'm taking a horizontal diagonal section following through the back. What that allows me to do is to use this point at the ear as my guideline to then blend into the length through the back.
That's kind of how we were trained back in the day on the shake, isn't it?
Well,
I always remember
yeah.
Julian and I had an art director who was old school Sassoon. His name was Vernon.
Yeah.
And to this day, when I work with this technique, I still do that so that I can control the outline.
Yeah.
Would you say that this is kind of derived from the shape technique?
I think all of your longer, rounder shapes evolve from the shake area, the shake haircuts, just as like all of your shorter round graduations really are derived from the Firefly. So those classic fundamental haircuts are extremely important when we're building, modern new looks. But, exactly what Gerard said, this really helps. Just that slight change in section allows me to control the outline from the shortest point in through the top parting, coming down, and then U-shape around through the back.
And then you'll change your angles back so you can elevate through the
You got
crown.
it.
So a question coming in from Sean Bubb, wondering if you ever do this technique with your clients standing so you can stand in front of them.
I wouldn't be opposed to it, depending on the length and the height of the client. I will say, the only hesitation I might have in doing that would be, that the client doesn't have the opportunity to relax. Just like when you're cutting a long one-length blunt line, sometimes you need to have them stand up. So yeah, in a technical sense, no problem whatsoever. That might help you at a longer length.
Some love coming in from our buddy Raina DeMoss. Raina,
Yeah.
Maiden Color.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got watching Kim Trong, watching in Iowa. Hello from New Hampshire. Hi from the UK, love your work. That one's coming in from Roma. Jennifer Coonan says hi from Ireland. Our buddy Mark Anthony is watching down in Texas.
Awesome. It's great, guys, and big hello to everybody that is part of the Hairbrain family and has been for a while, and then also a big hello to all the newcomers that maybe this is your first time watching. And again, Gerard and I have put together the classic cutting fundamentals that I've been cutting for a couple
of years now.
A couple of years now. And we found that, just sharing those classic fundamental techniques that we learned that are so important in modern hairdressing. So for those of you that are new to it, stay in tune, keep your eye watching, as far as what's going on Hairbrained, and, just study the techniques as much as you can, and hopefully they help you.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I work on this technique, I go back and forth rather than do one whole side.
Yeah.
I like to do it because I find it helps me keep my balance on.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to do one side? Was it just for the camera or?
No, speed and efficiency.
Yeah. That's what they're all about.
Yeah.
It's like the tortoise in the hair.
Exactly. But no, when I teach this in one of my hands-on classes, I will talk about that. And I'll tell a person if they have any hesitation in their balance, and if they have any concern with their balance, then maybe do up to the first part of the haircut and then do the same on the other side. Then do the horizontal diagonal sections in the back on the one side, then on the other side. So you break it down and do it step by step, rather than I'm doing step 1, step 2, now step 3 is going to be a higher elevation. You could do step 1, step 2, step 2, 3, 3.
Julian, would you change the technique at all depending on the density or texture of the hair? So here you've got kind of medium texture with a little wave to it, kind of the perfect hair, which is why mannequins are great to learn on.
Yeah.
But would you change it if the hair was really thick or really straight?
I wouldn't. It would take a lot for me to want to change the approach. But what I may change is the elevation and the angles slightly. And you think more weight, you need to remove more. Finer hair, you may need to build more.
So you're saying if the hair was thicker, you may elevate more
Slightly
progressively.
more. Exactly.
If the hair was thinner, you might keep the elevation a little bit lower.
Exactly. And that's a very generalized statement. So now what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that guideline to now start rounding through. So,
I feel like you're kind of marrying a shake and an inside out here.
well, I mean, again, they kind of have that relationship.
Like you
where-
started off with the face frame, then you did the graduated outline in the back, and
Yeah.
now you're kind of round layering off the face frame. I feel like it's a hybrid of a shake and an inside out, two very important technical techniques.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, the shake definitely came first, and I think the inside out, the approach was inspired, you know, by the classic shake. So, you know, most of your rounded haircuts from front to back, you're always going to be able to relate back to, I think, you know, those cuts, which is good. We want to be able to do that. We want to be able to relate it, right? So again, you see everything sitting down through the edge.
So yeah, you've got like a face frame that's graduated into an outline that's graduated, and now this is giving you the layered effect.
Yeah, so all from this point, we have two different angles. One's coming down with the graduation, then off the same angle, it's blending into the layering. So now you can see the sections went back to that vertical diagonal, because again, now I'm removing, you know, weight from the haircut.
Destiny Rose is going to be starting school next year. Well, Destiny, this is a great tool for you. Julian's done probably about 100 of these demonstrations in our HB Live video library. So all you need to do, guys, I always like to say this because people don't always realize it. If you go on our Facebook page and you click videos, it'll take you to our video section where we've got a catalog of well over 400 videos. We've got at least 100 of these from Julian, I would say, doing this technical foundation cutting.
You know, you were talking about, you just kind of reminded me of, you know, beauty school. I don't know if you know this yet, Gerard, but do you know Jet and Reese's son is now a student at the Sassoon Academy?
Oh, right on. His name Elvis, is that the?
Rocky.
Rocky,
Yeah.
right on.
And Reese was one of our creative directors back from New York, him and Jet, who is a colorist, opened a very successful salon
In San Diego.
down in San Diego. And it's amazing, he taught us. Now his son is going to, or their son I should say, is going to Sassoon. And you know, being taught by some of the people that we used to work with.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, it's a legacy.
Yeah, it is.
It's a legacy.
It definitely is. All right, so you see the elevation, you see the finger angle, slightly curved, basing it off of the line that I have in the front, right, my guideline, and then also making sure that it blends into my back length. All right, so now from this point, I passed the curvature of the head. So I'm looking at the curvature of the head on this angle here, right? So off of the cheekbone, up into the crown area, right? So now if I take the comb, I'm just at the flat spot of that head.
That's so important, understanding those transitions of the head, isn't it?
That's the key, man, because everything's based off of the transition. So if I wanted to maintain a heavier weight through the back, at this point, I would continue more stationary. Whereas if I wanted the layering to carry through lighter, now at this point, I'm gonna follow around to the just past center back. That's what I'm gonna do with this one. So I'm gonna
So
keep my
super
section.
important point, just to reiterate, you know, you can do all this the same, your perimeter, your outline, start the
Yeah.
layering, and then it could be heavier by over directing forward, or it could be rounder and lighter by following through.
Yeah.
Same sections, just different elevation.
Exactly, and all those are the little, like you were saying, you know, would I change anything if the texture was different? It's the little things like that that I would change. It would still be the same sectioning, the same approach, but having said that, the elevations and over directions would be different. So combing that through, making sure I can see my guideline, right? So I'm showing you this way the shape, but now you'll notice when I cut it, I'm going to stand in front. I'm just showing you the sectioning, showing you the elevation. But I want to work in a way, in standing position that I'm over-directing the hair towards my body.
Now I've noticed that you changed hand positions. You're now working on the outside of the hand.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
so I start out inside, which is generally used for below the curve.
Below the curve of the head.
Below the curve of the head.
Or kind of below the heart sometimes, is what
Yeah,
you say.
yeah, which, you know, kind of is one and the same. And then through the top, to get a higher elevation, I work over my knuckles so that I can lift that up very easily. You know, so, I mean, you think about like, you know, people will say, oh, a basic layer. Well, I mean, it might look simplistic, but it doesn't mean there's not a lot of thought to the
We never
process.
really use that term basic.
No, I know, and I'm using it.
It's classic, it's fundamental, there's nothing basic.
No.
I don't even know what a basic haircut is, you know what I mean, to be honest with you. So guys, if you're just joining us, we're here in Southern California with Julian Perlgiro, sharing part of his ongoing series of real technical foundations here, working on a long, round, layered, shake, inside out inspired kind of haircut. Those are some important terms that come from the legacy of precision haircutting. Let us know where you're watching from. We always like to be able to give shout outs to people and see where you're watching from. And then also any questions that you have.
Yeah.
Julian is a fount of knowledge and information, and I might be able to help out as well. So let us know what questions you have, technical or about the industry, and let us know where you're watching from so we can give you a shout out.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I mean? It's great. We get excited. We see so many different places that, you know, people are watching from, and it really, you know, goes to show, you know, how big but how small the industry is.
Your buddy Fernie is watching.
What's up, Fern?
Gino Souza, who's been a constant kind of student here and got a lot of history, says this haircut was introduced in 1977. It was a huge shift from the geometric shapes that we were doing in the previous years and the start of a new era. Gino, love your input, love all the tagging that you do when you practice these techniques, and love hearing about the history.
Yeah.
And what's up, Fern?
There we go. Fern the barber's in the house. All right, so I have about one more section. And what I want to do is just make sure that I cross over through that top, just so that I know that it's going to blend when I get to the other side. I don't really need to go more than one section.
So we had a question coming in from Francesco about your scissor or your shear. What length do you prefer? What brand do you like?
Yeah, well, I, for years now, have been cutting with a company called BMAC. And BMAC is a true Japanese scissor. And I can say that because I've been to the factory in Nagata, Japan. Gerard has as well.
Yes, I have.
And, you know, it's definitely many reasons why my favorite scissor, as far as the craftsmanship and the quality of engineering and metal. You know, so you can check that out on the website. I know Gerard has some on Hairbrained. I have my ones that are logoed with Gold Pig, which is my website, which I've been neglecting for quite a bit of time. I normally cut, I would say, you know, generally with a 5.5. I do have larger scissors for certain elements of cuts, scissor or comb, one length, things like that. I also will cut with smaller scissors for detail work, but I find 5.5, 6 is kind of like your workhorse, right? So you can do anything with it. When I travel, I only travel with one pair because it's easier as far as getting through, you know, the TSA. And these are the ones that I travel with all the time, so it's the 5.5.
So jumping in here, if you guys are in the market for scissors or shears, head to hairbrained.pro. We've just really expanded our offerings. We've got lots of great scissors, all Japanese made, and we've got a payment plan available with really great terms. You can pay the scissors, the shears off over 4 months, a quarter at a time. So you can get in there for as low as $56 to get started.
So 4 months, a quarter at a time, so they're earning $1 a pair?
No, a quarter of the cost. A quarter of the total payment. So you pay 25% up front.
Say he charged me a lot more than that, man.
But it's a great way because I really believe everyone should have access to incredible scissors.
Yeah.
And
I know you're also a believer that you can get a quality pair of scissors at a reasonable cost.
Oh yeah, we have scissors ranging from as low as $325 up to $1,000. Obviously, there's different benefits the more that you spend, but you can definitely use our most affordable scissor.
Yeah, and it's still quality.
It's a handmade in Japan BMAC scissor.
Yeah, it's a quality scissor. You know, and I bring that up because I travel all over. I do live education. I just got back from, you know, Northern California in Walnut Creek and in Berkeley, and working with, you know, stylists that might be out of beauty school just for a couple of years, and that's a lot of money, you know, to them. And they always think that, well, they have to pay, you know, thousands and thousands, but you know, you can get decent stuff. If
Yeah,
you, if
it's
you
like a
know-
car. I mean, if you can afford a Ferrari, and there's definitely benefits to driving it, but you know, basic Ford will get you from point A to point B, and yeah.
Exactly.
Gonna give some shout outs. Our buddy Jeremy Hickson is watching. Rhonda Isaac from South Dakota. Eileen Weiner is watching from Long Island. I love that. Frank Mussolino in the house.
What's up, Frankie?
Frank Mussolino, I haven't even tried to eat the pizza out here. I'm telling you, I wouldn't even do it. So in my experience in California, I don't eat the pizza. I know it's come a long way.
You when I make it, you know.
I'll eat it if Julian makes it, or I'll eat it if it doesn't even try to be New York. If it says New York pizza,
Nah.
I run the other direction.
Yeah.
But they have some fun, like different, like flatbread and pretzel crust and stuff. So as long as it doesn't even try to be New York, I'll try it.
All right.
That's my answer to Frank's
There
question.
you go. It's okay. Hey, we had to take time to answer that.
It's
a good
important.
question. It's about pizza. All right. So Gerard mentioned earlier the fact that he likes to work to a certain point, get the balance on the other side, and break it down. Or what I did was I worked one whole side than the other. There's no right or wrong, guys. And the one thing that I say, even though I cut this whole side, when I cut the second side, I section it off the same on the first side. So in essence, I am doing both sides together. Right? So now the most important length is this length here through the bottom. So I'm going to pull it back out to see where I was with my elevation and with my finger angle. At this point, I don't have a body to look at, but I would be using the shoulder, I'd be using the arm,
You want me to get in here?
I'd be using as I
How's
go.
that?
There we
Does
go.
that help?
Yeah, see now I can just do it,
Shoulders.
Yeah, well, I was going to say something else, but anyway, I work that right down into the shoulder blade in through the back. So I'm really using the body to help guide my length. Now this, I'm just out in the air, right? So it does make it a little bit more difficult.
So Jeremy Hickson's just joining, and I know you're starting on the second side,
Yeah.
so he's looking for a recap. So this will be a perfect time to explain
Yeah.
everything.
I'm going to keep my focus just on balancing this, Jeremy, for one moment, and then I will get into that. What I'm doing is, like Gerard said, I am starting the other side. I'm in the air now, so I'm using my visual and my hands to help me guide it. But like I was saying, I would be using parts of the body to help me get the right length at this area behind the ear, right? So that's close. That's looking pretty good. It's still a tiny bit longer on this side. Now, from here, Jeremy, what I'm working on is a longer combination of graduation and layers, starting from the front through to the back. So you can see my elevation through the top and through the temple is down, but I am working on this kind of U shape through the front. Now, it's just about the center, right? So you can see I'm still longer on the first side. So I will use that other side to help me match the length. Now, as I work through the back, Jeremy, through the external portion below the occipital, I'm working more truly on a graduation. And then as I get above the occipital bone, and as I start to get in through the crown area, well, then my graduation starts to transition into more of a layered approach.
So let's talk about this, because this is, obviously the hardest part, balancing the two sides. So
God, yeah.
it seems like you're working on it like slowly to
Yeah.
get there. Can you just walk us through like
Yeah.
what you're thinking,
Well-
how you balance it?
First of all, try to do the same thing, right? And it starts with the section, right? So I want to make sure that my section is the same, and that's why I section off the first side. Once I get the section, then I'm pinpointing the length and trying to get the longest point. Once I establish the longest point, I'm then now rounding it into the first side. Another thing is, you got to focus, guys. I can't be thinking about what I'm having for lunch. I can't be talking about the movies to my client.
I know what we're having for lunch.
Yeah.
We're going Rats Hut.
I have to focus on what I'm doing. Also, don't try to rush it, because once you get this, everything else is going to be set up for success.
Yeah, does this angle really determine the rest of the shape?
Yeah, everything's balanced off this right here. So from this point, my external portion of the graduation is through the bottom, so it drops down. And then from that same point, my layering then works through the crown areas.
So if you change this angle, make it steeper or shorter, would you end up with more layers?
It could throw you off. It will throw your balance off one way or the other. Definitely. You know, and that's the tricky part about, I think, you know, your classic fundamentals. You know,
Let us get a good shot at the sections there. They're basically vertical with a little bit of curve to them, so vertical, diagonal, back.
Diagonal. Yep. And then it's going to transform from this one. So if you hang out and watch the next one in just a minute, you'll see how this transitions first into the graduated exterior. So I want to see my guideline, this clear, guys. Working that up, making sure it blends in. Now, from this point, because I'm going to be working heavy through the outline, I'm going to take this section horizontal, diagonal.
So when you say from the, is that also because the head is curving there? Is that another kind of touch point?
Yeah, behind the ear at the curve where the flap comes off the head shape. Everything has to be, you know, acknowledged. So if you think about, you know, not to get off topic, so the head's first curve comes at the occipital, right? So you have the low curve, the middle curve, the high curve. The high curve starts to transition into the low curve of the crown, the middle curve, and the top curve. The top curve being the apex then starts to transition into the middle curve of the forehead, into the low curve on the forehead. From front to back, horizontally, you have the temple, which is the front curve. Then you have the middle curve at over the ear, normally is the widest, and it starts to transition into the back curve from front to back. Once you reach the back curve, it starts to curve again into the occipital, where we call the mastoid, right? So I have the front curve, the middle curve, the back curve into the occipital.
And all those kind of, I think sometimes we call them like touch points.
Yeah.
They all inform over direction, elevation, you know. It's really, that's why it's so important to understand the head shape and feel it.
Well, and it's the difference of saying take a 1-inch section.
Yeah.
Right? You know, you're looking at the curve. You're looking at the head shape, and everything is balanced off of the anatomy. You know, long time ago, the man, Vidal Sassoon, said, you know, we learned how to cut hair to enhance the anatomy, right? So to enhance the anatomy, we need to learn how to, we have to understand, you know, what is the anatomy. So now I'm going to start to curve down, and I'm going to blend into the center back, hopefully. We'll see how much sleep I got last night.
Yeah, you got to really always be on when you're trying to make this stuff happen, huh?
Oh yeah, there's you know, it's constant concentration. And even though I'm talking, you know, about different things, my eyes and my focus is here.
The thing that I always think about with round shapes is you're starting from the front with two different guides and you want to end up blending in the center back, which is always going to put you to the test, where when you're working with a guideline, maybe starting in the crown or in the back, you have one guideline and you just have to follow it around.
Yeah.
So that's an inherent challenge in a round shape, is two separate guides and then connecting them in the middle. Also makes it hard to balance with partings and things like that.
And you know, you also think if you were drawing on a piece of paper, what would be more difficult, to draw a straight line or to draw a circle?
Yep,
Right.
Fernie's saying head shape is key. He totally agrees.
Yeah.
Danielle Green is watching. Great to have you here. Kaio Wang, good to have you here too.
So Fern, this is a form, I know you're gonna love this one, round internal graduation.
Oh, that's a lot of words.
Yeah, me and Fernie had some fun times working on round internal graduation, and you know, talking about, you know, the characteristics of it many times.
Well, you know, here's the thing about our craft. You know, you take it where you want to take it. If you want to make a whole lexicon of vocabulary for everything that you do, then you should. If you want to be simple, then you should. There's room for all of it. If you're great with your hands and you do beautiful work, you can be very complicated, or you can be very simple in how you explain it. And the thing is, especially if you're an educator, because you have to reach all kinds of different people.
Yeah.
Some people like simple, some people like complex.
Yeah. Well,
There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, there is actually.
No, there
isn't. Well, here's the deciding factor. At the end, it has to look good.
Of course.
Yeah, but that's not.
No, I'm talking just about vocabulary, because it gets more and more complicated the longer that I do this.
Don't let don't overthink it to where you're not focusing on the beauty of it.
Yeah. Well, words are not nearly as important.
Exactly. You know, and I can remember, it's like, you know, I remember at a phase of my training where I did get so overly technical.
Absolutely.
That my creativity and my beauty aspects of it suffered.
Yeah.
Because I was, you know, trying to be a mathematician. Where, you know, you finally start to find yourself in between an artist that uses mathematics and science to help them get to where they're going. Right? So, not that I was just I'm not disagreeing with the Gerard at all, but I just, you know, stressing that point, because when I go to work in salons and I do in-salon seminars. Guys, you can, you know, reach me and ask me about, you know, coming to your salons and doing education. You know, one of the most important things that, you know, we do in a salon is making sure that we do our best to make every client look beautiful.
Frank Mussolino says, guys, please stop arguing. We can't help it.
It's just the way, come on, Frank, we're both
Frank,
from the
when
East Coast.
when are you coming out to visit us, Frank?
Because you'd be hearing this debate, man.
You can come here and have some Julian's meatballs and Julian's pizza.
Oh, no, if he comes, he's cooking, man.
Oh, yeah. So, Frank, come out to LA.
And argue with us.
Yeah.
And argue with him.
This is just the way we do it on the East Coast. It's so funny. All right, so just making sure that I get that graduation. You can see working from the bottom up, right? So graduating that edge. Now from this point, this is the point that I'm going to start to change my sections. So for those that didn't see on the first side, right? Making sure that I blend into the first side.
Now, wait, just one more question here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, could these sections also have just been like perfectly rounded to do the outline, or do they have to come across on a diagonal? You know, could they, sometimes when I do something like this, I'll just match them up like smile sections.
Yeah, if I was doing both sides together, definitely. Yeah.
But since you chose one side or the other, it kind of crisscrosses.
It crisscrosses over. But if you were going to section them off, yes, if you're going to section them off together and meet in the middle.
It might be a little bit easier.
It definitely could be. You know, and like I said, for balance situations, you know, definitely, you know, work both sides together. That's the way, you know, I would teach it. You know, if I was focusing and teaching the balance aspects of the haircut. So definitely. All right. So my balance is just so good, Gerard.
Yeah. It's that belly of yours. It keeps you right. That's what mine does.
Keeps me grounded.
It keeps me grounded. The Buddha technique.
All right, so now here, I'm going to start to elevate up, round through. So I'm using my guideline from the front, but also now, because I'm working with a balanced haircut through the center, I want to make sure, I'm going to spin this just so that you can see. There's my guideline from the other side. So I want to make sure that these blend in. So my aim's pretty good today.
Magical.
Right? I got a good amount of sleep last night, I guess.
Julian, if people want to take a real hands-on class with you, or perhaps see a more detailed video from you, what are some options?
Well, video-wise, I mean, we have the education that we did for Hairbrained, right? And that's something that, you know, you can go on, you know, Hairbrained and do a little bit of research. I'm sure Gerard in a minute will tell you how to do that.
Yeah, you know, we have, these Facebook Lives are fantastic, but if you really want to learn from Julian, he filmed a class in a sound stage with 5 cameras and beautifully edited, all put together.
You get the angles perfectly,
And that's at hblive.me, and it was his Precision Bobs class. So a 1-length bob, a graduated bob, a layered bob. So if you like Julian's education, which I think some of you do.
It's not bad.
Then check out hblive.me. We've got constant sales going on there. So if you get there and it's at full price, then just make sure you join our mailing list, because we always have revolving sales to make sure everyone gets the best price they can. So check it out, hblive.me, Precision Bobs with Julian Perlin Giabro.
Yeah, and then for the live education, go to my website, get my email, which is julian.education at iCloud, right? Get my email me, and we can kind of talk about a program that would be, you know, set up for your individual needs.
So you'll go into someone's salon
Yeah.
for a day, work with their staff, customize, do hands-on, either mannequins or models, yeah?
Yeah.
And they should contact you through Instagram?
Well,
No?
I would say email me is better.
Email.
Yeah, if you email me, you can go to the website, get my email. It's also on my Instagram at Julian Pearl, but you'll get a quicker response if you email me. And then, yeah, all the classes are custom for, whatever the salons or individuals' needs are. But anywhere, 1 day, 2 day, you can do 100 days.
100 days.
100 days. God, can you imagine 100 days with me?
All right, so it looks like you're kind of nearing the final blending
Yeah, so
point.
now it's checking into the other side.
And will there be cross-checking in this haircut?
Yeah, yeah. And, with that, that'll just give me that final, vision to make sure that everything blends, to make sure, nothing slipped through my fingers, which can happen, with longer hair. Get a piece that kind of doesn't want to be cut. All right, so that's looking pretty good. All right, so now the cross-check with this, and again, when we're cross-checking, it should be something, that you're not recutting the whole haircut. I do want to cross-check through the internal portion of the haircut. So I'm going to take my sections, looking at the curvature. Right. And then pull these sections up and out. And just make sure that it blended from side to side. Any little stray hairs that we have, we can just lightly dust those off. The elevation is key in this, guys. So you see, I'm combing from underneath, lifting up so that I'm encouraging lightness to the hair. That's looking pretty good. If I comb down, I'm encouraging graduation. See, this is going pretty well. So the cross check I can see. See, there we go. Now we can really start to see. All right, so that's not too shabby. There we have it.
So cross-checking across the crown, seeing
Yeah.
both sides blend.
Yeah, and then through the sides, I'll do a similar technique, but now because I took my sections diagonal, vertical back, I'm going to go the opposite and just check to make sure that my elevation and over direction was crisp. It's not bad, guys. A couple strays there. I don't even know if they're connected now.
It's interesting to me when we were apprentices back in the old days training at Sassoons. I remember watching the original videos with Christopher Brooker and whoever else it might have been Tim Harvey or Gerald.
Yeah.
And actually watching them cross-check and seeing that they had stuff to clean
Yeah.
made me feel better about myself, actually.
Yeah.
So that's nobody's perfect the first time.
Well, that should make you feel pretty insecure,
Yeah,
Gerard.
terrible. You're so good. Yeah.
But also, if you think, education and standards have to improve. What they were doing 30, 40 years ago needs to be done better. If we think about anything, that was developed, but these people pioneered it, man. They're the ones who brought this stuff to life.
Yeah, we got some of the pioneers watching you right now. I just see Dwight Miller popped up. We're always thrilled
awesome.
to have Dwight watching.
Hey,
and,
Dwight.
Pascaline Gianello, some old Sassooners there from
so
the.
they know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Just really pioneering those standards that hairdressers use today. And hopefully, Gerard, for the kids now that are coming out of beauty school, we're helping them, understand these fundamentals that we were taught and we were, that people shared with us. So
It's the legacy,
Yeah.
passing down the legacy of the
Exactly,
craft,
Now, the cut's done. I'm not going to spend time blow drying it. Would you mind getting me some spray from back there? I didn't bring it. Some Day-Day. Right, so you can start to see everything's down through the bottom. Right? So all of the graduation and internal layering is through this area of the haircut, where if you have a client that wants to maintain length through the top, they don't want to shag, or they don't want something really layered through, right? So keeping the elevation quite low. You can even see the shape starting to come to life without product yet. So the product, the shape is there. You know, product is going to enhance the, thank you, sir. So you're going to enhance the shape that you cut, right? So I'm going to start out with the Day Day Hair Mist. And just moisten down the ends.
Frank Mussolino thinks we should open a cosmetology school.
Hey, Frank. Yeah, I agree with you, man.
Let's do it in New Jersey, Frank, and you can run it. So what are you using here? I know everyone's going to be asking.
Yeah, this is by Davines. This is Day Day. This is a hair mist. Beautiful conditioning agents in the hair to help give it, you know, a nice shine, good cuticles.
And you've brought your education into the Davines world, haven't
Yes.
you? You're doing some classes with Davines?
Yeah, so this here, you can see I'm working with foam. All right. Yeah, so I'm working with Davines, and I'm working with helping, you know, their education team in North America, and also working with the companies that distribute Davines and going into the salons and doing education.
So that's another way, people that are out there in the Davines world, they can, through their distributors, so you can either go into salon or sometimes you're doing cluster classes for Davines distributors.
And what's cool is that, you know, I mean, it's there for everybody. You don't have to be a Davines salon as far as, you know, benefiting from the education. If you go on to Davines Pro, you can see the cities that I'm going to be in, and you can register for one of the classes.
Nice comment coming in from Scotland from Graham Jack. I also teach at the Maid Academy in Glasgow, and I watch you guys all the time. I mirror my teaching and get a lot of education, inspiration from Julian P. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, dude.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. And that's what it's all about. And, you know, from one educator to the other, just keep sharing, man. So with this, I mean, you can see the shape. To dry it, I would really just diffuse dry to bring out the wave a little bit. But
you know, yesterday I did an HB Live on hand drawing.
Oh.
So if you guys want to see some drawing techniques, just go back in the feed a little bit and take a look at the hairbrand line from yesterday.
Do you do like Mr. Miyagi and warm your hands up and then?
No, I used the Dyson,
Oh, yeah.
and I used my hands and to work on bringing out beautiful curls and waves. I also threw a few pin curls in here.
Oh, look at that. Very nice.
Bring it out.
Yeah.
Well, as always, a pleasure to have Julian with us.
Thanks,
my
guys.
friend. Peace out, guys. Thanks for the love and support.